local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
The man Oklahoma Cityans call Old Man River will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm B.J. Williams. With me is Bob Burke to talk about one of his latest books, Old Man River. Cece Beasley will talk with Jack Kinsey. Kids Corner will feature Shelley Ziegler-Hill. We also have Lavita Dent, Darla Zudi, and Gary Rodriguez. Coming up, Bob Burke.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, B.J. Williams.
Bob Burke is a well-known visitor to Read About It. In fact, he was just telling me earlier today, someone added up, and he has written more books about Oklahomans than anybody else in the world, which is quite an accomplishment given that you're also a full-time attorney, Bob.
Well, I love Oklahoma, and there's still 24 hours in the day. So.
Oh, my. And apparently you don't need a great deal of sleep.
I don't. I never have, so I try to glean as much out of the 24 hours that I can.
Right. And now you've got 9 books out this year.
Yeah, it's one of those years. I didn't write all of those this year, but some of them written as much as 2 or 3 years ago. It's just one of those years that 9 are being released, all about Oklahoma.
And the one that you're here to talk about today is Old Man River, and it's about Ray Ackerman.
Yes, Ray Ackerman is well known in this town. In fact, his biography is closely akin to a history of Oklahoma City for the last 50 years because you can't name a significant civic project in this town in the last half century that Ray was not in the middle of, either the chairman or vice chairman, a very significant part of. Old Man River is a significant name for the book. Actually, it was given to Ray by Mr. Gaylord a number of years ago because Ray, for 30 years, has been saying we need water in the North Canadian River. He was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and he always loved the wonderful rivers they have there, and he couldn't understand that we didn't have any water in ours. So, as we know, in the very near future, we're going to have water so we can have rowing races, and that's just one of the many, many projects that Ray, the Bricktown Canal was his idea many years ago. When that was completed, one of the newspapers in town said that we should have named it the Ackerman Aqueduct.
Well, he might have enjoyed that very much.
I think so.
One of the things that struck me when I was reading this book is that a number of the biographies you have written have been of people that are long dead, but you also have written a number of people that are still around and able, in effect, to peer over your shoulder. What's the big difference between the two?
Well, great difference. If you write the biography of someone who's dead, it's much easier. Because, you know, if I write Cape Bernard, everyone who ever knew Cape Bernard have long been gone. So you have to look for documentary evidence, newspaper stories, things like that. It's a wonderful process, though, to write the biography of someone like Ray, because not only can you interview them at length, interview their family members, but then they get to read the manuscript, and then it often, one of them will say, hey, here is a story that ought to be added, or here's a story that, you know, can you tell it differently, you know. So it really is an interesting, it makes for a longer process. I spent so much time with George Nye writing his biography 2 years ago that he's now moved in with me.
Oh dear.
not at the house, thank the Lord. He's moved into the office. But both George and Ray are characters, and it was a really neat thing with Ray Ackerman to say once I got the advance copies from the publisher, a very special thing for an author is to hand someone a book and say, this is your life, very much like Ralph Edwards used to say. But it's a long process, but it's very rewarding because you feel like in the end that you have it exactly correct, because the guy about whom you've written has looked at it and said, yeah, this is you've captured me. That's a really nice comment to an author, for them to say you've captured me.
Yeah, that is. But I imagine there's a tremendous amount of editing because you get so much.
Yes.
And do you also have to spend a lot of time sort of putting it in chronological order? You know, when I start talking about my life, I jump around from here to there and back and
Sure,
forth.
because we probably interviewed Joan Gilmore is my co-author in this book, the well-known columnist and editor in town, and Joan did a lot of the interviews, and we would take all the raw information, then I organize it chronologically and simply begin at his life in Pittsburgh and write chronologically his life story. And probably only half the stories are in the book. Now, Ray was in the Navy for a long time, and some of those stories I had to delete.
I'll bet you
Ray thought they
did.
were great, but I thought, I don't know. This book is published by the Oklahoma Heritage Association, so
It's a family book.
well, sure it is. That's right. And and we never had any disagreements. But I would say, Ray, we can't tell that story. Oh yeah, it's a great story. Well, we can't tell it, you know. And Ray, I think, and Joan and Ray and I worked together on it very closely, and edited piles of material into a 300-page book. So I think it turned out well.
Well, I am not at all surprised that you had to leave out a lot of Navy stories. The bit you did leave in about his life in the Navy led me to believe he had a great time when he was in the Navy.
He did. He had a wonderful time. He was a single guy and a true Navy hero.
Right. And apparently a salesman from the get-go.
He was. He, of course, is best known probably for building the state's largest advertising agency, Ackerman McQueen, which is one of the largest advertising agencies in the nation. And he built that just from 2 or 3 people. He started out 50 years ago. A wonderful success story. And then he had his life in the Navy, became a 2-star admiral in the Navy. And then the third part of his life was his civic work, because he's always given incredible time to helping his community, and has headed up, as I said earlier, almost every organization in town.
And I appreciate Mr. Gaylord naming him Old Man River, because as I recall, his first meeting with Mr. Gaylord was not, it didn't go so well,
That's
did
right.
it?
Actually, the current Mr. Gaylord's father,
Oh, right.
yes, E.K.
Yes.
Gaylord, because when Ray first came to town 52 years ago, he took a job as an ad salesman for the Daily Oklahoman. Well, he was from back east, and he wore a nice feathered cap, and he had down at the old Conley's Menswear was one of his accounts, and so they dressed him nicely. But all of these winter clothing in the summertime in Oklahoma got to be very hot. So he had told his boss at the Oklahoman, I don't want to wear a tie and a hat. Well, Mr. Gaylord insisted upon that. E.K. Gaylord insisted upon it. And so he said, I don't want to. So Mr. Gaylord sent for him one day and had him pull up a chair and said, look, I want you to be presentable. I want you to be professional looking to all of our customers that you're selling ads to for our newspaper. And have you ever heard of seersucker? So Ray was introduced to seersucker and cooler clothing for the Midwest by Mr. Gaylord a long time ago.
But it sort of went on from there, and he acclimated very well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, except, you know, this is not all success stories. Remember Townley Dairy? And Mr. Townley was a great old gentleman in town, and Ray tried to get that account once, and it didn't succeed because he showed up in this nice feathered hat and a three-piece suit, and Mr. Townley was very short, and Ray's very tall, as you know, and so Mr. Townley opens the door and looks up and said, are you from Boston? You know, so he didn't get the account. Of course, he did not get the account for another reason, because he had decided to send a telegram to Mr. Townley saying that, hey, we're at the agency here, we have 27 children who drink Townley milk. Unfortunately, Western Union decided at 3 o'clock in the morning to telephone that telegram to the Townley household. So he didn't get off on a good start. So not all success stories. We tell the failure stories also.
Right. But I think it also demonstrates that Ray really throws himself into anything that he...
Oh, yes. And a great example is the National Finals Rodeo. That was a great success story for Oklahoma City for almost 2 decades. And from the very beginning, Ray was the general manager of that. Served as the general manager of the National Finals Rodeo until Las Vegas stole it from us a decade ago. But that's one of those examples. He threw himself into that, and it was a great deal for the community.
Now, we have just a very short time. People can find out about this book and many more books at your website, which is...
BobBurkeLaw.com.
Okay. And it has links to the Oklahoma Heritage Association.
That's true, and the Oklahoma Historical Society. Most of my books are published by the Oklahoma Heritage Association, and they should be in all the local bookstores also.
Thank you very much, Bob, for being with us.
Thank you. My pleasure, BJ.
We've had with us today Bob Burke. He's been telling us about his latest book, Old Man River. You can find it at your library and your favorite bookstore. Coming up next, we have Susie Beasley. She'll be talking with Jack Kinsey about a book we'll all enjoy.
Jack, kind of give us an overview of Robert Allen Goldberg's Enemies Within, the Culture of Conspiracy in a Modern America.
Goldberg writes that conspiracies and conspiracy theories are part of American culture going back to pre-colonial times. He takes 5 contemporary conspiracy theories since the end of the Second World War, outlines them, and profiles the individuals who are involved in them.
Now, does he do a retrospective, meaning that he gives you a really good background on it, or does he kind of skirt over the issue?
Well, he'll give you background as far as the root beliefs, the root literature. He does biographies of some leading figures in the conspiracy culture: Louis Farrakhan, Oliver Stone, Robert Welch, individuals who are the center of some of the major contemporary conspiracy theories.
Right, kind of give us an idea of what those are.
Well, of course, there's Roswell involved.
Right.
There's the what he calls the master subversion conspiracy, which up until the fall of the Soviet Union was a major culprit. Now it tends to be the Illuminati and the Trilateral Commission.
Right.
That and the animosity between the root animosity or cause animosity between blacks and Jews in American culture.
Right, and that's kind of instigated by the Farrakhan. And of course the JFK
Of course,
assassination.
the grassy knoll and the JFK assassination.
Right. And some of the other, I know he kind of discusses Karen Silkwood briefly.
Silkwood's mentioned in passing, and it all kind of is combined into the fact that the belief, the cultural belief now that not only is the government omnipresent and able to dictate how culture is read,
Right.
but that the truth can never be known, even though it's out there.
And that kind of perpetuates this whole thing.
Right,
and
right.
feeding it.
And he talks about Hollywood's involvement in bringing this front and center from the fringes, and quite frankly, merchandising that surrounds these conspiracy theories.
Like Elvis is still alive.
Elvis is still alive, or your
Marilyn Monroe,
or your alien autopsy videos,
Right,
for sale, and trinkets.
and trinkets and things like that. Well, it's keeping Roswell going, if nothing else. And everybody, of course, they've seen that UFO and the blinking lights and things like that. Well, Jack, we certainly appreciate you coming and sharing with us Enemies Within: The Culture of Conspiracy in Modern America by Robert Allen Goldberg. And this book is fairly new.
It's new.
And it's available at your local library and your local bookstore. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again, Jack.
Thank you, Beasley.
If you spend 15 minutes a day reading to a child, you're doing more than reading. You're building a bond that lasts a lifetime. Hi, I'm Penny McCaleb, Chairman of your Metropolitan Library Commission, and I urge you to read to your children. Not only will they learn to love reading, they will also become better students. Our children's librarians will be happy to help you select just the right book. The next time your child hands you a book, take the time to read. You'll both be glad you did.
With me today is Levita Dent, who is Children's Outreach Services for the Metropolitan Library System, which means she sort of knows what's going on for kids all over the library system. Isn't that right, Levita?
I try to. One of the things I wanted to mention before we talk about some children's programs were some excellent exhibits that we have at two different locations this month in September, the remainder weeks of this month. There is First Americans, First Oklahomans, Indian Peoples exhibit at Midwest City, available all the hours the library is open. And Midwest City also has an exhibit of custom leather and Native American craft display as well from one of the Midwest City residents. And then the Edmond Library has collectible dresses and accessories display. So anybody interested in fashions and the history of fashions and how they've changed would enjoy that as well. And
Now, those are all, they're free. All you have to do is show up when the library's
show up
open.
when the library's open, and they're there till the last week of September.
Okay, great. And you have an awful lot of paper there, which I'm assuming means there's an awful lot going on.
There is every day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there are story times in one of the library locations around the system. There's story times for all kind of ages for young children, the little babies to toddlers and preschoolers, even up to 4 and 5-year-old story times. Then also, there's programs for the older children. One of the libraries at the Village location is having a library mystery night later in October. And then they're having a pumpkin painting class one of the Saturdays in October. One library is having make and take on October 5th in the Edmond Library, where you come in and make a paint your own bookmark.
Oh, how
And
neat.
the decorative art organization there in Edmond is sponsoring that, and it's just right down the lobby. You just walk in and paint your bookmark and go on your way.
It's great. I was at Encyclomedia and the other week, and one thing that all the teachers told me is all the kids want bookmarks. They always want bookmarks. So here's a way to have your very own personalized bookmark.
That's right, that's right. And anytime we put bookmark out for take as you want, they go really fast. So making your own would be even more popular.
Now, for anybody who's curious about exactly when and so on, they can either phone their local library or they can go to our website.
Yes, and it's very important to make that phone call to a library when you're wanting to go to a program, even if you've gone to the website and looked at the information, because sometimes there are requirements for getting into the class, such as sign up, and there are certain dates you can start signing up. So it's good to call and get the information directly from the library.
Thanks. Coming up next, we have Kids Corner. Kelly Rhea spoke with Shelley Ziegler-Hill about a book for our young adults.
Hi, we have a really good YA book. That's a young adult book. Shelley Ziegler-Hill, what'd you bring today?
I brought Silent to the Bone.
Silent to the
Yes.
Bone.
And it's on the YA Sequoia list this year.
Which means it's been approved and recommended?
It's been recommended by librarians, and it's up for to be voted, you know, for the YA book of the year in Oklahoma. I guess it's Oklahoma Award.
Must be good.
Yeah, I think so. Silent to the Bone is so interesting because it starts out with a 911 phone call.
Ooh.
And it's a babysitter calling 911 saying that the boy that she watches has dropped the baby, and the baby is unconscious.
Oh, no.
And what's so interesting is that at that point, that's when Branwell, who's the main character, he stops speaking. And actually, so it's so interesting because the main character doesn't even start speaking until the last third of the book. And what happens, I don't want to give a lot of it away, just a little bit. What happens is that his friend starts talking to him and using these cards to draw out the truth, because this book is really, it's a mystery. It unravels as you read it of what really happened that day of the 911 phone call.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it starts off with this inciting incident, and then it really starts to pick up steam as everything unfolds.
And you learn that the characters are not who they really appear to be.
Ooh.
Yes, it was so interesting. I loved it because it really is. It's like an Agatha Christie mystery, you know, for young adults.
How exciting.
Yeah, it's super. I really, really liked it.
So who would this appeal to?
Well, you know, the main character is a boy and about his friend. So boys would like it, but there's a lot of female characters for the female readers to grab onto and identify with as well.
And so 10 to 14-year-olds?
Yeah, I'd say 10 to 14, but you know, I'm 29 and I really liked it, so.
I like young adult fiction myself. Well, it sounds really exciting, and so as far as getting involved with the book, is it the kind when you start reading it, you can't put it down?
I read it like an hour and a half.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm not like a fast reader, but I couldn't put it down because I wanted to find out what happened that night, and you find out, and it's not what you think.
So Silent to the Bone maybe applies to this main character?
Yes, because he is silent until his friend draws him out.
Ooh,
Yeah.
how exciting.
Yeah,
And
it is.
sometimes it does take a good friend to bring
It
us
does.
to our
So
books.
it's also a good theme of friendship, I think, that Connor is the friend and Branwell have such a deep, strong friendship.
Well, you'll have to find out about this book about friendship. It's called Silent to the Bone at your local library or at your favorite bookstore.
Thanks, Kelly and Shelley. It's time now for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out with hardback fiction. Number 10 on that list is Mission Compromised by Oliver North with Joe Messer, The Beach House by James Patterson and Peter DeYoung, Celebrate Through Heart Songs, written and illustrated by Maddie Stepanek, The Remnant by Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins, The Nanny Diaries by Emma McLaughlin and Nicola Krauss, The Voyage of the Gerald Shannara Morgwar by Terry Brooks, Standing in the Rainbow by Fannie Flagg, Dark Horse by Tammy Hogue, Red Rabbit by Tom Clancy is number 2, and Alice Sebold's The Lovely Bones is number 1. On the nonfiction list, Good to Great by Jim Collins is number 10, The Cell by John Miller and Michael Stone, Longitudes and Attitudes by Thomas Friedman, Ann Coulter's Slander, A Mind at a Time by Mel Levine, Breakdown by Bill Gertz, Above Hallowed Ground by photographers of the New York City Police Department, What We Saw by CBS News, Let Freedom Ring by Sean Hannity is number 2, and Let's Roll by Lisa Boomer with Ken Abraham is number 1. On the children's list, number 10 is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket, The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling, Artemis Fowl, The Arctic Incident by Ian Colfer, The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funk, Protector of the Small, Lady Night by Tamora Pierce, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket, Jenny B. First Grader Boss of Lunch by Barbara Park is number 2, and Meg Cabot's All-American Girl is number 1. With me now is Darla Zudi, who has written a whole series of books for young people about cat detectives, and she's here to tell us about something exciting that is happening for 3rd and 4th graders this year, right?
Yes, 3rd and 4th graders in the metro Oklahoma County area. They're doing a writing contest, and they're also doing a poetry contest and a illustration and writing contest. That's countywide.
Okay. Now, how do you sign up for this, and what do you have to do in order to compete? I'm assuming that there's going to be prizes and winners and all kinds of things like that.
Yes, it's going to be so exciting. You can enter by getting an entry form through your school, or you can go into any of the Metro County Library locations and pick up an entry form there. The deadlines are September 30th, and it gives you all the rules of, I think they're like 2 pages long, and you make a copy of them and things like that. And then, yes, there are prizes, which is what the kids really like. There's 9 winners in all. Since there's 3 categories, there's poetry, illustration, and writing, and just general writing without illustration. There's 3. And so there's 9 prizes, and the prizes are, the top 2 winners will have U.S. savings bonds and one of these Cat Detectives of America t-shirts, which is this right here.
Which is actually based on your books, right?
Yes, and then they'll get a Full Circle gift certificate to go use at that wonderful bookstore there in 50 Plaza.
Okay. Now, do they have to have a special topic that they're writing about, or is this choice up to them?
Yes, actually the topic is based on my Cat Detectives of America series, which is, it's actually the slogan for the Cat Detectives, which is always protect and care for others, no matter how big or small. So my 3rd book has come out, Tale of 3 Amigos, and that concentrates on Captain Spunky's desire to make sure that he always protects and cares for others, no matter how big or small.
So, well, this is actually, all things considered, what's going on in the world today, this is a very timely topic, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's timely because in the story, there's 3 mice that are small that have to be protected and cared for by the cats, and that's a problem. The cat's having to adjust to working for mice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can imagine that it would. Oh, they look so tasty. No, protect. Oh, they look so good.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of an insult for cats to be employed by mice. So.
Right. But a 3rd or 4th grader can write, actually, they can write a poem, or now you mentioned one, story and illustration, so they could draw a picture and then write a short story to go with it?
Right, kind of like a picture book. So I think you don't have to have much content where you just do a picture and then do a little caption underneath. And like I said, the rules and regulations are in the entry forms, and so I think that the kids can follow that, or they can talk to their teachers or their librarians. Will be happy to help them on how exactly to do it. The important thing is that they get it to the libraries by September 30th, the closing time. Whatever time your library closes is the date that they need to have, the time that they need to have the entry forms back to the library.
And then the winners will be announced in...
the National Children's Book Week. That's in November.
Oh, how neat.
So at the end of November, and
at the end of November, several happy children will be dressed in T-shirts descending on Full Circle Bookstore, right?
Right. And then we'll be going to the schools and announcing the winner at the schools. So I think the kids will really enjoy that, and they'll get a picture taken, getting the award, and it's going to be a really exciting time for kids. This is the first contest for the library, and I think they're really excited. Ultimately, they want to expand and have more grades doing it, but they're really excited about this.
Oh, yeah. Well, anything that encourages kids to read and then to actually
Absolutely.
do something with it is really super. Well, I want to thank you very much, Darla, and mention that you're going to be on in November to tell us all about Captain Spunky and the mice again. So we'll be seeing you
I
shortly.
look forward to seeing you too.
We've had with us Darla Zudi, author of the Cat Detective series, and you can find out about the Cat Detectives at her website, and you can also find out about the essay contest at the Metropolitan Library System website as well. Coming up next, we have Gary Rodriguez talking with Doug Benton about one of Gary's famous books about war.
When you read to your child for just 15 minutes a day, you're doing so much more than just reading. You're building a bond that lasts a lifetime. Hi, I'm Elisa Johnson with the Metropolitan Library Commission, and I urge you to read to your children. Not only will they learn to love to read, but they'll be a better student. Our children's library will help you find just the right book. The next time your child hands you a book, take the time to read. You'll both be glad you did.
Hello again. I'm here today with Gary Rodriguez. Hello.
How you doing,
Good
Doug?
to see you. Gary is our expert on all things military here on the show. Yeah. Well, that's the reputation that you've created here. He has a book today called The 11 Days of Christmas by Marshal Michel III. What is this all about?
This is well, it actually says America's last Vietnam battle. And what it really is about is, anybody has any history of the Vietnam War, it's Linebacker 2. The bombing campaign that basically made the North Vietnamese go back to the peace tables and get the treaty signed. You know, they kind of were directing how it was going, and they were playing their game, and Nixon basically said, all right, we'll make the buggers go back, use a different word, go back.
Well, Nixon would have used a different word.
Yeah, he would have used a little different word, but this is public television. We don't want to get too violent. But it's more than just the bombing campaign. It actually is a very all-encompassing book about the Vietnam War in general. It tells about the history of where Vietnam came from, and Ho Chi Minh, and gets into all that, gets into the Paris peace talks, gets into Curtis LeMay wanting to have a nuclear bomber force, and how he didn't want to be dropping a bunch of conventional bombs. Iron bombs wasn't what he was after. And so the Air Force had been geared that way to bomb nuclear bombs. So, and it actually points out the reason we had the losses we had was because of that nuclear bombing mindset. This campaign was actually directed, the paths on how to get there, bomb paths to get in, how they turned, everything was directed from Nebraska, for heaven's sakes. They literally got the frag orders, was what they call the orders to fly, everything, the power stations, everything from Nebraska. And they flew them the same way for 7 days. And they took pretty tremendous losses. They didn't even know for a fact when they dropped the bomb bay doors open, they were creating a 75% increase in the radar return. And it was just like magic. All of a sudden, here they're on the bombing run, and the Vietnamese, because this book goes both ways. It's not just the U.S. version of it. They talk to the Vietnamese anti-aircraft people, and basically leaders from there. So it's a really all-encompassing book. But it talks about they opened the doors, magically the radar return suddenly stabilized, and there it was. And then when they turned the planes, where they turned the planes after the bombing run, negated the anti-radar that they had on the planes, the electronic countermeasures. They didn't even take that into account. And the bomber crews knew that's what was happening, and they tried to tell them. And you got to give them credit. They flew the mission, even when they knew it was bad. So.
I'm sitting here with my mouth open as I listen to this stuff. So it's fascinating me just hearing you talk about it. But who is the book for? Is it written for the general audience?
It really is a general audience. Someone don't know anything about it. A teenager who picked this book up, and it's a very good book. It's a very non-biased book. A lot of times they have a lesson or a axe to grind, and this book is not written that way. It's a very neutral book. It's very interesting.
Okay, Gary, thank you for bringing it in. It's The 11 Days of Christmas by Michael L. Michel III. Gary Rodriguez, thank you, sir. And thank all of you for listening.
Thanks, Doug and Gary. If you'd like to meet Darla Zudi in person, she's going to be at the War Acres Library on September 27th. She'll be talking about Hat or Bite. So if you still haven't finished your essay contest by then, drop by War Acres and get a few tips so you can enter the contest, which is over on September the 30th. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.